Have you ever wondered why a simple trip or a moment of dizziness can have such devastating consequences for someone in their later years? A quiet afternoon, a simple fall, and a life changed forever. This isn't a rare story. It happened to a man named Walter, a proud 82-year-old grandfather. One minute he was reaching for a book on a shelf. The next he was on the floor with a shattered hip. The most heartbreaking part of his story, and so many others like it, is that it could have been prevented. But the truth is, we often believe that as long as we're careful, as long as we know our own limits, these things won't happen to us. We tell ourselves we're fine, we're independent, we don't need any help. Here's what really happens. A hidden danger is lurking in the homes and daily routines of millions of seniors. A danger that has very little to do with being careless and everything to do with something most of us quietly overlook. The reality is that our bodies change in subtle ways that we don't always notice until it's too late. This could be you. This could be your spouse, your parent, or a dear friend. A single, overlooked detail that silently escalates, day by day, until a minor incident becomes a major, life-altering event. It's a threat to your independence, a threat to your health, and a threat to the precious years you have left. A fall that could have been just a stumble becomes a long hospital stay, a loss of confidence, and a fear that never quite goes away. It could have been prevented. In this video, I'm going to reveal the things no one tells you about these interconnected risks. More importantly, I'll share the practical solution, the life-saving secret known by only a small fraction of seniors, that shows you how to protect yourself and maintain the dignity and independence you've earned over a lifetime. I'm going to show you how to change your trajectory, how to protect your future, and how to improve your quality of life right now. Stay until the end, because I will share a simple, 5-minute check you can do in your own home today that could literally save your life. Now let's get started. Number 1. The silent epidemic of sarcopenia and its direct link to falls. The word itself, sarcopenia, sounds complicated, but the concept is frighteningly simple. It's the gradual, age-related loss of muscle mass, strength, and function. This matters for seniors specifically because it's not just about being unable to lift heavy things anymore. It's the primary, often undiagnosed, reason for the loss of balance, stability, and the ability to catch yourself during a stumble. It quietly robs you of your physical resilience, making a simple trip a catastrophic event. Take George, a 78-year-old retired handyman. George was always the strong one, the person everyone called to fix things. In his mind, he was still that capable man. He noticed his grip wasn't as firm and that carrying a full bag of groceries from the car left him winded, but he brushed it off as just getting older. One afternoon, turning a corner in his own kitchen, his leg didn't feel quite steady. He stumbled, something he would have easily recovered from just 10 years prior. But this time, his weakened leg muscles couldn't react fast enough. He crashed into the counter, fracturing his wrist and badly bruising his ribs. The physical pain was one thing, but the psychological blow was worse. He felt fragile and, for the first time, old. What he didn't realize was that his pride and his perception of himself as strong had blinded him to the silent erosion of his core and leg muscles. The turning point was his physical therapist, who didn't just treat his wrist. She explained sarcopenia. She told him, "George, this wasn't an accident. This was a predictable outcome of muscle loss." It was a harsh but necessary wake-up call. George started a simple, targeted routine. He did chair squats while watching the news, holding onto the counter for support. He did wall push-ups to rebuild his upper body strength. He made a conscious effort to eat more protein, eggs for breakfast, a piece of chicken or fish for dinner. Within a few months, he not only felt stronger, but he walked with a new confidence. The positive outcome wasn't just avoiding another fall. It was regaining a sense of control over his own body. The lesson is crucial. If this is ignored, the consequences are a dramatically increased risk of falls, hip fractures, a loss of independence, and a faster slide into frailty. You become a prisoner in your own home, afraid to move freely. The solution insight is that sarcopenia is not an inevitable sentence. It is treatable and even reversible. The secret is understanding that strength training in your 70s and 80s isn't about vanity, it's about survival. You can start with simple, bodyweight exercises. First, practice sitting and standing from a sturdy chair without using your hands, 10 times in a row. Second, stand at your kitchen counter and do calf raises, lifting your heels off the ground to strengthen your lower legs. Third, make a conscious effort to add a source of protein to every meal to give your muscles the fuel they need to rebuild. This isn't about becoming a bodybuilder. It's about maintaining the fundamental strength needed to live safely and independently. That foundation is more important than you can imagine, which leads us directly to the next point. Number 2. The hidden dangers of polypharmacy, when your medicine cabinet becomes the threat. Polypharmacy is the regular use of multiple medications. For seniors, managing conditions like high blood pressure, diabetes, or arthritis often means a handful of pills each day. This matters because each new drug, whether prescription, over-the-counter, or even a supplement, adds a layer of complexity and risk. The potential for negative interactions, side effects like dizziness and confusion, and cognitive fog increases exponentially with each pill you add. Consider the story of Helen, an 81-year-old widow who was meticulously organized. She had her 7 different prescription medications lined up, along with an aspirin and a few vitamins. She prided herself on never missing a dose. But over the past year, she'd started feeling woozy. She had moments of lightheadedness when she stood up and a persistent mental fog she just chalked up to being 81. Her daughter, Nancy, was worried. She noticed her mother seemed less steady on her feet and more forgetful than usual. Helen insisted she was fine. What they didn't realize was that a new medication for bladder control, prescribed by a urologist, was interacting poorly with a blood pressure medication she'd been taking for years. Neither doctor knew the full picture of what the other had prescribed. The consequence came one morning when Helen stood up from her breakfast table. A wave of intense dizziness washed over her. She grabbed for the back of the chair, her knuckles white, and managed to avoid falling, but the shock terrified her. It led to a frantic call to her daughter and a trip to the emergency room. The ER doctor, after a long and careful review of all her bottles, identified the dangerous interaction. The turning point for Helen and Nancy was the realization that more medicine isn't always more health. They learned that even common, seemingly harmless combinations can create a perfect storm for a fall. Following the doctor's advice, they took action. Helen scheduled a brown bag review with her primary care physician and her pharmacist. She literally put every single pill bottle, prescriptions, vitamins, supplements, everything, into a bag and had them review it all together. They were able to identify the overlap, adjust dosages, and eliminate one medication entirely. Helen also started using a weekly pill organizer with separate compartments for morning, noon, and night. This simple tool eliminated any guesswork. The positive outcome was dramatic. Within 2 weeks, Helen's fog began to lift. The dizzy spells vanished. She felt more clear-headed and steadier on her feet than she had in years. She wasn't just getting old, she was being over-medicated. The lesson is that you must be the CEO of your own health team. If you ignore the risks of polypharmacy, the consequences can be devastating. Chronic dizziness, cognitive impairment that mimics dementia, an extremely high risk of falls, and potential kidney or liver damage. You could end up in the hospital not because of your disease, but because of the treatment for it. The solution insight is to never assume that all your doctors are communicating with each other. The secret is proactive management. First, keep an updated, single list of every single thing you take and share it with every doctor at every visit. Second, schedule an annual medication review with your primary doctor or pharmacist. This is a crucial safety checkup. Third, if you start a new medication and begin to feel off, dizzy, or confused, don't dismiss it as aging. Call your doctor or pharmacist immediately. It could be a sign of a dangerous interaction. Your clarity of mind is your first line of defense, which brings us to another silent threat that attacks it directly. Number 3, chronic dehydration, the overlooked cause of cognitive decline and instability. We all know water is important, but for seniors, mild, chronic dehydration is a hidden epidemic with shocking consequences. This matters specifically for older adults because the body's thirst mechanism becomes less sensitive with age. You can be significantly dehydrated without ever feeling thirsty. This silent dehydration can cause a host of problems that are often misdiagnosed as something else entirely, from dementia to simple old age. Let's look at someone like Margaret, an 84-year-old who lived proudly on her own. Her children, who lived an hour away, started noticing changes during their weekly visits. Margaret seemed more forgetful, occasionally irritable, and she complained of frequent headaches. She had a couple of close calls where she stumbled in her hallway. The family began having hushed, worried conversations about her cognitive decline and whether it was still safe for her to be alone. They feared it was the beginning of Alzheimer's. What Margaret and her family didn't realize was that she was living in a constant state of mild dehydration. She'd drink a cup of coffee in the morning and maybe a small glass of juice with lunch. She was never thirsty, so she simply didn't think to drink water. The consequences of this simple oversight were profound. One weekend, her son arrived to find her extremely confused, weak, and running a fever. He rushed her to the hospital, where she was diagnosed with a severe urinary tract infection, or UTI, which had led to a state of delirium. The emergency room doctor took one look at her dry mouth and papery skin and immediately started in for drip. He explained to the family that chronic dehydration is a leading cause of UTIs in the elderly, and that the infection itself can cause acute confusion that looks exactly like advanced dementia. The turning point was that hospital visit. It was a terrifying wake-up call. The doctor explained that Margaret's brain, starved of adequate hydration, wasn't functioning properly, which led to the memory issues, irritability, and poor balance. It wasn't dementia, it was a lack of water. After she recovered from the UTI, her family helped her take action. They bought her a large, 64-ounce water bottle with time markings on the side, so she had a visual guide for her intake throughout the day. They set an alarm on her small kitchen clock to beep every 2 hours as a reminder to drink. They also stocked her fridge with water-rich foods like melon, cucumbers, and soup. The positive outcome was nothing short of miraculous. As Margaret began to consistently hydrate, her dementia symptoms vanished. Her mind cleared, her energy returned, and her balance improved. The family's difficult conversations about moving her to assisted living stopped. The lesson learned was that the simplest things can have the most profound impact. If you ignore this, the consequences are severe. Chronic dehydration can lead to recurring UTIs, kidney stones, constipation, electrolyte imbalances that affect heart function, and a dramatic increase in fall risk due to dizziness and confusion. It can, and often does, lead to a premature loss of independence. The solution insight is to stop relying on thirst as your guide. The secret is to make hydration a non-negotiable, scheduled part of your day, just like taking medication. First, aim to drink a glass of water first thing in the morning, before your coffee or tea, to start your day rehydrating. Second, use a visual aid, like a marked bottle, or even just placing 6 pennies on your counter and moving one over every time you finish a glass of water. Third, eat your water. Incorporate fruits like oranges and watermelon, and vegetables like celery and bell peppers into your diet. These small, consistent actions can protect your brain, your stability, and your independence. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. Your feedback is incredibly encouraging and helps us know we're on the right track. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any of our future videos designed to help you live a healthier, more empowered life. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Number 4, the social isolation spiral and its devastating physical toll. Loneliness is more than just a sad feeling. Medical research has now proven it is a significant health risk factor. Some studies have shown that prolonged social isolation carries a mortality risk equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. This is critically important for seniors because life transitions like retirement, the loss of a spouse, or friends moving away can create a vacuum of social connection. This isolation triggers a downward spiral. It can lead to depression, which leads to poor self-care, which in turn leads to a rapid decline in physical health. Take the story of Frank, a 75-year-old widower. After his wife, Eleanor, passed away, his world shrank. He used to go to a weekly coffee group with other men from his neighborhood, but it felt different without her to nudge him out the door. He started making excuses. Soon, he was spending most of his days alone in his quiet house, watching television. He stopped cooking proper meals, often just eating toast or canned soup. He wasn't moving his body, and he wasn't engaging his mind. He felt like he was becoming a burden to his children, who would call and ask, "What did you do today, Dad?" And he'd have nothing to say. What Frank didn't realize was that his loneliness was actively harming his physical body. The lack of social accountability meant no one was there to say, "Frank, you don't look so good today," or "Have you thought about seeing a doctor about that cough?" The consequence of this isolation was nearly fatal. Frank had been experiencing shortness of breath and a dull ache in his chest for weeks, but he dismissed it as a cold or heartburn. He had no one to talk to about it, no one to encourage him to get it checked out. One evening, the pain became sharp and severe. He managed to call 911 just before collapsing. He had suffered a major heart attack. In the hospital, his cardiologist was blunt. "Frank," he said, "the physical damage is significant, but the bigger problem is that you waited so long. If someone had been around, they might have pushed you to come in sooner." The turning point for Frank was that stark conversation in the ICU. He realized his isolation wasn't just making him sad, it was actively trying to kill him. While recovering, he made a promise to himself. He took action, but it wasn't easy. He forced himself to call one of the men from his old coffee group. The man was thrilled to hear from him and insisted on picking him up for their next meeting. Frank also reached out to a local senior center and, though he felt awkward at first, signed up for a woodworking class. His daughter also set him up with a simple tablet computer so they could have video calls, allowing him to see his grandchildren's faces. The positive outcome was a slow but steady re-engagement with life. The social interaction gave him a reason to get up, get dressed, and get out of the house. His mood lifted, he started eating better, and he was more diligent about his cardiac rehab exercises. The lesson is that human connection is a biological necessity, not a luxury. If you ignore the spiral of social isolation, the consequences are severe: a higher risk of depression, anxiety, cognitive decline, and a significantly increased risk of mortality from all causes. You become invisible, and your health problems can grow in the shadows, unnoticed and untreated. The solution insight is to treat your social life with the same seriousness as a doctor's appointment. The secret is to schedule it. Don't wait to feel motivated. First, identify one activity you used to enjoy and find a group for it. A book club, a walking group, a church committee, a volunteer opportunity. Second, embrace technology not as a replacement for in-person contact, but as a supplement. Learn to use video calls to connect with family who live far away. Third, establish a buddy system. Find at least one friend or family member you can agree to check in with every single day, even if it's just a quick hello text or a 2-minute phone call. This small act of mutual accountability can be a literal lifeline. It ensures that someone knows how you are, which is critical when subtle health changes begin to appear, as we'll see in our next point. Number 5. The misunderstood warning signs of a silent heart attack or stroke. We've all seen the movie version of a heart attack, a person dramatically clutching their chest and collapsing. But the reality, especially for seniors and particularly for women, can be dangerously different. The symptoms of a major cardiac event or a stroke can be subtle, atypical, and easily dismissed as something minor. This is a crucial piece of knowledge for seniors, because attributing a serious symptom to indigestion, fatigue, or anxiety can be a fatal mistake. The delay in seeking treatment can mean the difference between a full recovery and permanent disability or death. I remember the story of Carol, a vibrant 72-year-old who loved her garden. One afternoon, while weeding her flower beds, she felt an overwhelming wave of fatigue, far more profound than just being tired from the work. She also felt a strange, dull ache in her jaw and a bit of nausea. There was no crushing chest pain, no shooting pain down her arm. She thought she'd just overdone it in the sun and perhaps had a touch of indigestion from lunch. She decided the best thing to do was to go inside, lie down, and sleep it off. What Carol didn't realize was that these were the classic, yet often misunderstood, symptoms of a heart attack in a woman. Her body was screaming for help, but in a language she hadn't been taught to understand. The consequence of her decision to wait was devastating. She woke up a few hours later feeling much worse, breathless and clammy. Her husband found her and immediately called an ambulance. By the time she got to the hospital, significant and irreversible damage had been done to her heart muscle. The doctor told her husband, "If she had come in when the symptoms first started, we could have limited the damage." That 3-hour delay changed her prognosis significantly. The turning point for Carol was a cardiac rehab class she attended after her hospital stay. The nurse leading the class put up a slide listing the atypical symptoms of a heart attack: profound fatigue, shortness of breath, nausea, and pain in the back, shoulders, or jaw. Carol stared at the list, tears welling in her eyes. It was a perfect description of what she had felt. She realized her own stoicism, her tendency not to be a bother, had almost cost her her life. After that, she became a fierce advocate for this knowledge. She made sure her friends, her sister, and her daughter knew these signs. She took action by learning to listen to her body with a new kind of respect and urgency. She never again dismissed a strange or sudden symptom. The positive outcome was that she not only recovered, but she empowered her entire community of friends with this life-saving information. The lesson is that your body doesn't always follow the textbook. If you ignore these subtle red flags, the consequence is lost time. In a heart attack or stroke, time is tissue. Every minute of delay means more heart muscle dies or more brain cells are lost, leading to permanent heart failure, speech problems, paralysis, or death. The solution insight is to update your internal symptom library. The secret is to adopt the mantra: when in doubt, check it out. Don't ever worry about being a bother or feeling foolish if it turns out to be nothing. The hospital would rather see you 100 times for false alarms than miss the one time it's real. Here are 3 things to commit to memory. First, for a heart attack, look for atypical signs like sudden, extreme fatigue, shortness of breath, nausea, or pain in the jaw, neck, back, or either shoulder. Second, for a stroke, remember the acronym FAST: face drooping, arm weakness, speech difficulty, time to call 911. Third, and most importantly, if you experience a symptom that is new, sudden, and severe, or just feels deeply wrong, call for help. Trust your intuition. It's the most sophisticated warning system you have. Please comment number 6 below to let me know you're here. Seeing your comments helps me know that this information is reaching you and is valuable. It's a small thing, but it provides great motivation for us to continue this work. Now let's move forward. Number 6, the critical importance of foot health and proper footwear. This might seem like a minor point compared to heart attacks, but it is one of the most direct and overlooked secrets to preventing falls. Our feet are our foundation. As we age, a number of issues can make that foundation unstable: numbness from diabetic neuropathy, pain from arthritis or bunions, poor circulation, or even just toenails that are too long. Compounding the problem is our choice of footwear, especially inside the home. This is vital for seniors because a loss of sensation or stability at the ground level is the first domino to fall in a chain reaction that ends with a hip fracture. Take Robert, an 80-year-old with type 2 diabetes. He had mild neuropathy in his feet, which meant he couldn't feel the ground perfectly. It felt a bit like he was walking on cotton. At home, he always wore a pair of old, backless, slip-on slippers. They were soft and didn't pinch his toes, so he considered them comfortable. He shuffled when he walked, partly because of his age and partly because his feet had to work to keep the loose slippers from falling off. His wife, Linda, had mentioned a few times that maybe he should get some better house shoes, but he'd always wave her off, saying, "I'm fine, they're comfortable." What Robert didn't realize was that his comfortable slippers were a death trap. They offered zero support, no grip, and the backless design meant his foot was unstable with every single step. He was essentially trying to balance on 2 floppy, unpredictable platforms. The consequence came on a perfectly ordinary Tuesday. He was walking from the living room to the kitchen. The toe of his loose slipper caught on the edge of a floor mat. Because of his neuropathy, he didn't feel the snag immediately. His body pitched forward, and his shuffle turned into an unstoppable trip. He fell hard, trying to catch himself with his hand, and ended up with a complex fracture of his wrist. The recovery was long and painful, and it severely limited his ability to care for himself for months. The turning point was during a follow-up visit with a podiatrist. The doctor looked at Robert's feet and then asked, "What kind of shoes do you wear around the house?" When Robert described his old slippers, the doctor shook his head. "Robert," he said, "wearing those slippers with your neuropathy is like driving a car with bald tires in the rain. You were going to have an accident eventually." This stark analogy finally got through to him. He took action. Linda went out and bought him 2 pairs of supportive, well-fitting shoes with a firm back, a non-slip rubber sole, and Velcro closures that were easy for him to manage. One pair was for outdoors, and one was strictly for indoors. It felt strange at first to wear real shoes in the house, but he quickly got used to it. The positive outcome was a dramatic improvement in his stability. He stopped shuffling. He walked with more confidence because his feet felt securely connected to the ground. The simple change in footwear was a powerful act of fall prevention. The lesson is that your feet are a critical piece of safety equipment, and your footwear is the key to that equipment functioning properly. If you ignore this, the consequences are clear: a massively increased risk of trips and falls, leading to fractures, head injuries, and a loss of mobility. It's a simple problem with a devastatingly high price. The solution insight is to stop thinking of slippers as harmless. The secret is to treat the shoes you wear inside your home with the same seriousness as the ones you wear outside. First, throw away any worn-out, backless, or overly flexible slippers. They are not safe. Second, invest in a pair of dedicated indoor shoes that have a sturdy, non-slip sole, good arch support, and a closed heel to hold your foot securely. Third, have your feet checked by a doctor or podiatrist at least once a year, especially if you have diabetes or poor circulation. They can spot problems like long toenails or developing sores that you may not be able to see or feel. This simple attention to your foundation can change everything. It ensures you are stable as you navigate your environment, which brings us to our final and perhaps most important point. Number 7, the 5-minute home safety audit that almost nobody does. This is the crucial revelation I promised you at the beginning. We become comfortable in our own homes, so comfortable that we become blind to the subtle hazards that develop over time. A path we've walked 1,000 times can become a trap because of one small change. This is the most important secret because your environment can either be your greatest ally in aging safely or your greatest enemy. For seniors, a home that hasn't been adapted for changing physical needs, like reduced vision, balance, or mobility, is an accident waiting to happen. Consider the story of Eleanor, 79, who had lived in her beloved 2-story house for 50 years. She was fiercely independent and proud of it. When her son suggested installing a grab bar in the shower, she was almost offended. "I know this house like the back of my hand," she'd say. "I don't need all that." But her eyesight, especially at night, wasn't what it used to be. The hallway from her bedroom to the bathroom was lit by a single, low-wattage lamp at the far end. And she had several beautiful, but unsecured, throw rugs on her polished hardwood floors. What Eleanor didn't realize was that her familiarity with her home had created a dangerous sense of complacency. She was navigating a familiar obstacle course, but her ability to see and react to those obstacles had diminished. The consequence was predictable and tragic. One night, she got up to use the bathroom. Disoriented in the dim light, she didn't realize the edge of the hallway runner had curled up. Her foot caught, and she fell hard, hitting her head on the door frame and fracturing her pelvis. The fall was not just physically devastating, it was the end of her independence. After her hospital and rehab stay, it was determined that her 2-story home was no longer safe for her to return to alone. She had to move into an assisted living facility, a transition that broke her heart. She had lost her home not because of her age, but because of a curled-up rug and a dim light bulb. The turning point, sadly, came too late for Eleanor, but her story serves as a powerful lesson for all of us. The action we can take is proactive, not reactive. The secret is to stop seeing your home through your familiar eyes and start seeing it through the eyes of a safety inspector. Here is the 5-minute audit you can do today. Walk through your own home with a critical eye, specifically looking for these things. First, lighting. Are the paths from your bed to the bathroom and from your living room to the kitchen brightly and evenly lit? Install bright, easy-to-use night lights in hallways, bedrooms, and bathrooms. Change to higher wattage bulbs. Second, rugs. Look down. Do you have any small throw rugs or runners that are not securely taped down with double-sided carpet tape? If you do, the safest solution is to remove them entirely. They are the single most common tripping hazard. Third, clutter and cords. Are there stacks of magazines, shoes, or other objects on the floor or on the stairs? Are there electrical or phone cords stretched across walkways? Clear all pathways completely. Secure cords along the baseboards. Fourth, bathrooms. This is the highest risk room in the house. Are there secure, professionally installed grab bars in and around the shower or tub and next to the toilet? Is there a non-slip mat inside the tub and a non-slip rug on the floor outside of it? Fifth, stairs. Are your stairs well lit? Do they have secure handrails on both sides? Are the edges of the steps clearly marked with contrasting tape if they are hard to see? Taking 5 minutes to walk through your home with this checklist isn't about admitting defeat. It's about taking control. It's about making your home your sanctuary and your fortress, a place that supports your independence, not one that threatens it. Now that we've covered these 7 crucial areas, from the silent muscle loss of sarcopenia and the hidden dangers of your medicine cabinet, to the vital importance of hydration, social connection, understanding atypical symptoms, proper footwear, and the hidden hazards in our own homes, take a moment to reflect on your own life or the life of someone you love. Which of these points resonated the most? Where is there an opportunity for a small, simple change? The purpose of this isn't to create fear. It's to empower you. You have control over these risks. These are not set-in-stone outcomes of getting older. The idea that falls and rapid decline are inevitable is a myth. Small changes make big differences. A simple set of chair squats, a scheduled medication review, a marked water bottle, a weekly phone call with a friend, a new pair of supportive shoes, or removing one dangerous throw rug. These are not monumental tasks. They are small, achievable acts of self-preservation and self-respect. The true, life-saving secret isn't one single piece of information. The 15% of seniors who know this don't just know one fact. They understand the profound truth that all of these things are connected. The secret is the holistic understanding that your well-being is an interconnected system. Your muscle strength affects your stability. Your medications affect your mental clarity. Your hydration affects your cognitive function. Your social connections affect your will to live and your accountability to your own health. And your home environment can either be a safe haven that supports you or an obstacle course that becomes a trap. The secret is to stop seeing these as separate, unrelated issues and start seeing them as one integrated system of health and safety that you have the power to actively manage every single day. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts are important to us, so don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments gives us great motivation and encouragement. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.